Welcome back to another episode of the Freedom Kickstarter podcast. So I seem to say this all the time, but today's guest is someone who I've known online for quite a while now. So really looking forward to kind of digging into business stuff and also what goes on behind the scenes in business. So as always, I'll throw it over to the guests to introduce themselves. Today's guest is Jonathon Hamilton Potter. So Jonathon, tell us a bit about yourself and what you do.
Hi, Mike. So I'm a online personal trainer. I work with dads. That's the be all and end all. And these are typically people that are wanting to change, wanting to lose body fat, kind of regain their past selves, so to speak. And dads that just generally don't feel like they have the time, the knowledge, the interest in getting back to where they want to be. And I like to show them that it is possible.
Like it. Cool. So I know that you've been in the online fitness space for what, like probably 10 years or so now, maybe even a bit longer?
Yeah, so I was before the whole COVID influx of online personal trainers, luckily, because I had a system already, which was probably saved my ass, so to speak. So I've been online for roughly 10 years, as you said, give or take, with a couple of different online businesses. And I've been a personal trainer total now for coming up to 18 years, which is quite scary.
Nice. Yes. So definitely a lot of changes have happened in the online space in that time. What's kind of happened or what's changed, I suppose, both in your own business? And let's answer that first, and then let's go into after that. What do you see as other big changes that have happened in the industry more at large?
The biggest changes really comes down to, and I know it gets thrown around a lot, but is having a niche and the importance of what a niche is and the importance of having a niche in a successful business. Beforehand, Facebook, having a Facebook page was very much, you have a certain amount of followers, you post something, everybody sees it. So there wasn't really a need to have a niche, so to speak. All you needed to do was look good to a degree, post a few topless selfies, post a few transformations, and normally you'd pick up some clients. And because it was quite a new thing 10 years ago and people were starting to grasp the fact that having an online trainer could be quite useful, it was very, very easy to generate business. Whereas nowadays, a lot of platforms are very much pay to play or pay to earn, so to speak. So things like Instagram, Facebook, the two main ones I deal with, so to speak, with clients, it's much more difficult to be seen. You need to really, in my opinion, have a real specific niche, know what you're talking about, really be invested in the type of person that you want to work with, be honest about actually wanting to help them rather than just make a few extra bucks, so to speak. And I think they're the biggest changes, really. And also how you can deliver the online training as well. I think that's a big one. Beforehand, 10 years ago, people were quite happy to download spreadsheets, speak via email, speak via text. Now, and I think this is a lot of the accessibility of new apps and how our attention spans changed. People want everything quite streamlined, so you need to deliver everything through one portal rather than asking somebody multiple things or to carry out multiple things that just even I probably wouldn't be willing to do.
Yeah, I certainly know when I got into it in, what would it have been, like 2012, 2013, I think. Very, very different. So everything I did was Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel. It was Word docs. I don't even think I used Google Docs. It was attaching a Word document to emails, email checking once or twice a week. And that was kind of it, really. And people were okay with that.
Yeah.
But as with everything, it advances. And like you say, it gets more saturated and the marketplace advances very quickly in fitness as well. So from the niching aspects, I think, am I right in saying when we first knew each other, you were kind of pretty much coaching just anyone for weight loss and body comp, and then now you've gone a bit more niche down towards dads? Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty much. So it started, I was just happy to take anybody that was wanting to lose body fat and typically improve their body composition. It wasn't, obviously health would be a byproduct of that, but it wasn't training anybody for any specific events, so to speak. I did gain a bit of interest in bodybuilding for a period of time. It was something I was potentially going to be going down the route of doing more for the wrong reasons rather than anything else. I've not got the worst genetics in the world, and I thought that becoming a bodybuilder was going to be the best way to get clients. So then I started training some bodybuilders and very shortly, a couple of years later, decided that wasn't really the route I wanted to go down. After that, I just wanted to generate or to start a business that was a bit more meaningful, so to speak. And that's when I started looking more at niches myself. And I was more thinking about or coming up with a niche that would make money as opposed to a niche that I cared about, so to speak. So it was like, where is there space that I could make money from an online coaching perspective? And I started a female only coaching program. One thing led to another. That didn't last particularly long. And then 6.5 years ago, coming up with 7 years ago, I started working specifically with dads. And main reason for that was becoming a dad myself, really realizing how difficult it was to maintain a certain level of fitness and an aesthetic, so to speak, while juggling that. And then just really discovering that if I was struggling with that, a personal trainer of 11 years at the time, surely there'd be other dads that were struggling with it too. And I got a bit of a passion for helping dads just like me.
And I know that in that interim period coaching women, that you had a business venture or business partnership that didn't exactly go to plan. Don't have to share kind of the details of it, but what was that experience like? Because I'm imagining that was fairly stressful for you.
Extremely stressful. Still gives me nightmares today. It was very much a learning process. I learned a lot from it in regards to how people should be treated, myself and other people as well. I was very naive at the time, which I think a lot of people starting a new business can be. It's very easy to get ahead of yourself. But I kind of put all my eggs in one basket. I came up with an idea for what I thought was a really great female-only program. And it was on paper a really good program too. I was expecting it to be the thing that I was going to be working on forever, pretty much. Pitched the idea to somebody that was fairly well respected, a female as well. And the idea was also that we would be working on this together. This would be our thing together. There wouldn't be any other distractions, so to speak. And rather than employing this person, we started a business together. And then very shortly afterwards, I realized that we weren't on the same level in regards to what we were wanting from the business, whether that was the initial belief from the get-go or whether it was something that developed over time. Ended up, I changed my social media, all my clients, websites. I did everything on the back end. And all of a sudden I was told that they wanted it to be a kind of hands-off business. So I went from potentially earning a few £1,000s a month to earning or being a few £1,000s in debt a month after having to buy the person out, try to maintain some of those clients, try to make an income. At the time as well, I had a 6-month-old son as well, fairly new house, quite a large mortgage, and it was quite a bad experience, so to speak. But again, I learned a lot from it, and I can't ever see myself having a business partner again, but everybody's different. But yeah, it was interesting to say the least.
Yeah, it's always I think partnerships are a difficult one. As in, I've got some great business relationships, but there have been other things I've done where they've seemed very exciting and the right thing at the time. And then, as you said, not everyone is always on the same page. You have different expectations, both in terms of maybe where the business can go and in terms of each person's responsibilities. And I've certainly found that I can work very well in a partnership, but it has to be really clear from the get-go. Otherwise, like you said, it's stressful. I know that when I tried to expand my online business back in the day, that it didn't really work out. And part of that is because I just didn't give enough direction. Like wasn't clear enough with how things were going to go. Certainly, I tried to hire some coaches to work in the business, but then their priorities are more their own businesses on the side. And so I don't know if that kind of resonates with your experience at all, but yeah, it was much more that I felt like we need to go all in on this, and I'll, pay you accordingly and make sure you're part of the journey and part of the profits. But at the same time, people wanted to do their own thing as well, which is never a great mix.
Yeah, I think I probably, again, in hindsight, if I was to do it again, there should have been more safeguarding in place in regards to making sure there was an exit strategy or a better exit strategy, whereas this person had quite a good exit strategy, I was left on my ass, so to speak, having to almost start from scratch, which was quite definitely knocked my confidence, my belief in myself as well from being a self-employed business owner. I was even looking at other jobs, which is crazy to think now, being employed by somebody, having a boss, having somebody to listen to. Just yeah, it wasn't a very fun time, but again, very much a learning process.
And what do you think, or how did you deal with that, and what did you do to get out of the situation?
Everybody's different. People can work better by having a boss, having accountability, having somebody to work under, work with. It was more the fact of, one, I don't have any qualifications outside of the fitness industry. If I was to start from scratch in another industry, I would be starting at the bottom of the barrel. So it was a case of, yes, I'm not making a great income at the moment with what was left from the previous business, but if I start in another industry, I'll probably be earning less than that. So I was almost not giving any other choice, almost. I then just really had to double down on what I was passionate about, what my current problems were, if there was any current problems that I could help other people with and share my experience with. And that's where it came down to, well, I'm a dad, I've been struggling, I'm currently out of shape, which I was at the time. What can I do to sort myself, and how can I then help other people that were just like me? So it was really a case of the fear of being employed and knowing that I don't work very well with authority and never have, whether that was school, whether that was parents, whether that was the part-time jobs I had as a kid, and just wanting to also be the best version of myself in a very stubborn way. I don't really like the fact of, or the thought of settling. I'm not saying people that have a job are settling. That's not what I'm trying to say. But without qualifications, it would be a very long road to where I was wanting to be from a financial and a lifestyle standpoint. And that was something I know I could and did turn around quite quickly by carrying on being self-employed.
I often think if you've been self-employed for a long time, I use this word loosely, but you are kind of unemployable. Not because you lack the skill set or even qualifications, maybe. Like, I think I could potentially walk into a company in any kind of marketing, copy, communications role, that kind of thing. But it's more just not being indoctrinated into like a company culture that I think you mentioned it there. You've never done well with authority. I'm the same. I've never been overly rebellious. I've never been badly behaved. I've always been introverted and quiet and well mannered. But I just don't like doing what other people tell me to do. I'm more than happy to work really hard for other people, but it kind of has to be on my terms, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I totally get that. And I've been at that stage myself as well. When I was initially doing personal training and things weren't working out, yeah, I was looking at jobs in the police. I can't remember what else I was looking for, but yeah, looking at anything basically that would earn me some money, because I was like, you just need to earn now and you might have to give up on your dreams of business, which is not a particularly pleasant place to be. But yeah, I totally get why you were why you're sort of thinking about that as a last resort, really.
Yeah, it was almost accepting failure to me. That's what it was doing, and that was motivation enough to not let that happen. And that was despite people nearest and dearest to me that were saying, you should get a job, this will take pressure out from you, this will give you a guaranteed income every single month, you'll get sick pay, things like that, which obviously you know that we don't get. But to me, that is not living up to my potential personally. And yeah, that's really what it comes down to.
And I know you've been very open about mental health and that kind of thing. Was this one of the lowest points for that then, when you're in that situation?
I've been unfortunate enough to have multiple bouts of poor mental health throughout my adult and late teen life. And it wasn't something, or having issues with mental health and depression specifically, wasn't something that was really diagnosed until I was 23. In hindsight, it was something I dealt with since I was a teenager. But it was definitely a low point, and people that have had depression before, or dealt with it before, or currently deal with it, it's very difficult to get yourself out of that hole, despite what your past achievements have been, despite what people say to you, despite how you look, despite how you carry yourself. It's a very dark, kind of deep hole to get out of. And yeah, back then was one of, I'd say, probably top three of my darkest points. And not just for me, like, I mean, it was very difficult for people closest to me at the time, seeing me how I was, and also just having to deal with me at the same time as well. And I'm very open to that. I know people don't want to seem like a burden, but I know I was a burden to people at the time, and I didn't want to feel like that, which again, it's a bit of a vicious circle sometimes because it makes you more depressed. But yeah, it was a tough time.
So what did you do then? And I know this isn't a simple answer, but what did you do to overcome that and get back on track?
It's funny because just by doing what you should be doing often is one of the best ways to, and this is what I found personally, this might not translate to other people, but by doing what you should be doing, what you're putting off, what you're thinking about doing, is the quickest way to get myself out of a depressive state. And my depression, low mood can kick in often because of overwhelm, and not necessarily by being overwhelmed by something large, but it can be as small as posting a letter sometimes. But then that'll stop me from doing that. Then I'll not do something else. I'll not do something else after that. But just simply by posting the letter, starting to work on the new business I've been thinking about working on, writing a email, coming up with a piece of content, it kind of gives you that belief in yourself that you can actually do it, and you're ticking some boxes and you're moving closer to where you want to be. The more you just put it off and you put off your kind of dreams and you start convincing yourself that you're not able to succeed and be good at what you want to do, that's when you just kind of stay stuck. So again, it's easier said than done, but just do the work is the best way to, as you've heard before, it's to stop procrastinating. The best way to stop procrastinating is by doing the work, and that just gets rid of a lot of anxiety, depression for me personally, even at my lowest stages.
Well, I think that advice works across the board, whether you have mental health challenges or not. Like even, and I'm not making this as a comparable at all, but even for me, I will find that even just this morning, sat down at the laptop in a coffee shop, and I just thought, I cannot be bothered today. And everything felt a little bit overwhelming. And I thought, right, what would I most enjoy doing? Well, I've got a client who I'm 2 weeks ahead in their emails, but I like writing their emails. Let me go and write another one. And just by doing that, it took 15 minutes. And I was like, right, I actually feel I've got some momentum now. I've got some motivation. Okay, I'm going to go back and tackle that stuff that a minute ago or 15 minutes ago I was really putting off because I didn't want to do it. So I think even if you're fortunate enough to not have any mental health struggles, that kind of still applies in terms of pick something you can do, get the momentum, put the wheels in motion, however you want to call it. Actually, that then drives a bit more. Maybe you can't do everything you want to in that day. Maybe that is all you get done, but at least you've done something. Yeah. And then the next time you go to work on something or start a new project, write a piece of content, whatever it is, at least you feel like, oh, well, actually, no, I didn't feel great yesterday, but I did that anyway. I can do that maybe a bit more today.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think obviously as well, I don't want to forget about mentioning this part, is just speaking to, if you do have depression or think you do, just speaking to an actual health professional as well. I'll be the first to admit that I am the worst person imaginable at managing my own mental health. And I probably would have been a bit more linear in regards to my progress over the last few years, both from a personal standpoint and from a business standpoint too. But just by speaking to an expert or multiple experts and trying medication, so many people are against medication nowadays, but it does really help, especially when you've tested different types and ones that you agree with. And I still, from time to time, take antidepressants as and when I need to. I'll go back to my doctor and get prescribed them, the ones that I know work for me personally, and I'm not ashamed to say that. And I do, with the type of people I work with and dads and everything else, I'm very fortunate they open up to me about mental health and how they're feeling. And and they've told me this, it can be very nice for me to say to them, look, like, I've been on antidepressants since I was 23. I struggle with depression. I have ADHD. Yes, you look at my Instagram and you see this highlight reel, which most people's Instagrams are like you're not alone. There's 10 other guys that I work with currently that have depression. There's people that have other mental health issues going on and all sorts that you just don't know about. And the amount of people I've said, if you feel up to it, just post it in the client group. Like, you'd be amazed the amount of support that you'll get if you want to. And the ones that do post it up, they are surrounded by positivity. And there's even people that I thought were from a client perspective, my clients I thought were switched on completely, and there was nothing wrong with them from a mental health. I don't like to, can I use that word? Wrong with them? I mean,
No, I get what you mean. Yeah, they had no
there was
struggles. Yeah.
nothing on paper. They look like a very healthy, mentally switched on, consistently individual, who then open up and say, look, well, I'm currently on antidepressants, or I'm not having a good time at the moment. I'm not sleeping. I'm drinking too much, whatever that might be. It's great to kind of see that community element come together. So again, just surrounding yourself with people, going to the doctors when you need to, and doing what's needed to be done. And I think, again, it's I'm not the biggest, I hate cliches typically, but everybody's heard of, and I'm sure lots of your viewers and listeners will have, but the eat the frog first saying, that works so well for me. If there's a piece of work or something that I keep putting off and I really don't want to do, just doing that as the first task for the day or task for the week. Yeah. So Monday is not my favorite day from a work standpoint. I put it on a Monday. I get everything done in the morning as much as I can, and I don't need to worry about it for another 7 days. But then if I don't do the thing first thing on a Monday morning, I do nothing for the rest of the day. Yeah. That knocks on to Tuesday, and then I probably need to catch up with Mondays, maybe put it off again. It just doesn't go down very well. So I think that's a really good one for me personally.
Do you have any structures or systems in place for when you do go into a lower period? Because I think people can be very, very understanding, but then at the same time, and this will be politically incorrect, but it's probably true, people also expect a certain level of service if they're paying for something. And I think a lot of people will be like, yes, I understand, but also, I don't want a coach who's not there for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever. Yeah. And we can argue the morals and ethics of that, but I think that's largely true. So is there anything that you have where you're like, okay, I've got this safety net if I feel a bit shit, or a way that I can still make sure clients are getting what they need, even if, I'm not feeling my best?
I think honesty, firstly, is the best piece of advice I could give people, is just to be honest to the people that are relying upon you, first and foremost. So if you have not got around to building a client program or doing a check-in for a client because you've been struggling with your mental health that day, I think being honest about that and not saying, sorry, my kid's sick, or sorry, my car's broke down. I think honesty goes a long way, and most people respect that for you. I'm luckily in a position where I can pretty much pick the client that I want to work with and the type of client, which I'm very lucky to say. And generally people will understand. Obviously, I probably have lost a lot of clients and a lot of money over the last few years because I've not always been the best I could be for people. But just by being honest, and then also having some non-negotiables that are very easy to achieve and to tick off, which are very underwhelming, such as making sure that the clients that I'm working with have a program in place, and then also a backup program they can follow if they need to, making sure that they can message me at any point as well for a reply is also very important as well. Just making sure that they know what they should be doing throughout that process as well is also very important. And then just having something that you can do from a minimum standpoint as well, that you would still be able to deliver what you've promised. So not over promising and under delivering, I think, is very important. And that's one of the reasons why I will never do with this current business like a super high ticket program, because I don't want to be relied upon to really control somebody's entire life, because I know that I might not always be able to be at that level all the time. So I don't want to let people down. And that's another thing that gets on my mind a lot of the time, especially when I'm in a depressive state, is letting people down. And I don't want to put myself in that position again. So not promising to deliver what I'm not wanting to or able to do, I think, is really, really important. So just managing expectations. Everybody's heard of brain dumps, haven't they? It's very, very popular. I typically will do like a brain dump once a week, and I will have a big list of things that need to be done. And then when I am feeling a little bit low or expecting to feel a little bit low, I'll generally just pick things from the brain dump that take 2 hours to do for a day. Something that's really underwhelming. And 2 hours a day might not seem like a lot of work to a lot of people, and it's not. But generally speaking, like I said beforehand, by doing the work, it can motivate you. By doing the bare minimum, you probably find you end up doing 3 hours, 4 hours, rather than if I've got 6 hours of work to do and I'm not feeling particularly good, I know for a fact I just won't do anything.
Well, I think it's good to have that level of self-awareness. And again, even from a non-mental health standpoint, I think often people just massively overestimate how much they can get done, and they'll put 50 things on a to-do list for a day and do 7. And I try and have, with everything I do, have like an A goal, a B goal, and a C goal. And my thing is, if you have that, probably 3 days out of 5, you're going to hit the B goal. One day is going to be a bit shit and you'll hit the C goal. One day is going to be amazing and you'll probably hit the A goal. But it's like people always shoot for that A goal and then get annoyed when they don't do it. So whatever level you're at, I think that something like that is really important. Just, yeah, being self-aware to that, really.
And I think as well, just having planned breaks as well is really, really important. I know you're quite good at having breaks as well and actually planning them in your day. And that's something that I try to adapt as well quite regularly, whether that's just doing 60 minutes of work and then having as long as an hour and a half break at times. If you multiply that by the course of a day, you've still done 4 solid pieces of work as opposed to planning for 8 hours and doing 30 minutes, 40 minutes. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think a lot of people sit down at a laptop for 3 hours and don't do that much. Whereas if they sat down at a laptop for an hour and they said, right, no social media checks, no email checks, unless that's part of the work. But to me, that's reactive work, not proactive. Not going to do those 2 things. You can probably get as much, if not more, done in one focused hour than if you give yourself, it's 8 a.m. now, I'm going to work till 11. I don't care how productive you are, 99% of people are going to procrastinate in that time and faff around and do stuff they don't need to be doing. So again, focused work. And as you say, if you set yourself the goal of, I want to get my whole work day done in 4 hours, most people online can probably do that most days. I think not all the time, but a lot of the time it's doable.
I think so. If I was to think of how could I deliver the best service possible to my current clients, how could I post on social media regularly enough, I would probably, and this is without cutting corners, 3 hours a day would be enough to provide that level of service. And that's without trying to maybe grow the business and doing all the other stuff and working on things that are going to generate clients. But I think, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, just kind of maintaining a certain level of service and business for a period of time until you are motivated enough or mentally capable enough. And again, that's another reason why not wanting to be employed by somebody is, if I don't want to work till 7 p.m. at night, I won't work till 7 p.m. at night. If I want to work for a few hours in the morning, I'll do that and then I won't work the rest of the day.
Well, I think I often refer to it as being like training. And I'll probably get the terminology here because I've not been in the training space for ages, but it's like having your macro cycle and your mesocycle in terms of you're going to need a deload at some point. And in some businesses, that might be a 50-50 split of sprinting hard on work and deloading. It might be 3-1, 4-1, whatever it is. But like, for example, before Christmas, you came down and spent a couple of days with me. And we did maybe a couple of hours in the morning, then went out and had some training, got some food, chilled out, a bit more work in the evening. I don't think either of us grew our businesses massively in that time, but we maintained everything. We hit all the, the minimum standards we needed to hit. And it was like, okay, 3-4 hours a day, we're good. Having a period like that, absolutely fine for most people.
Definitely. And it's that sense of achievement as well, rather than constantly feeling like you've not done enough. Mm-hmm. If that's all you've set and you've achieved it, it's quite a nice feeling. Yeah. I like having a to-do list and ticking things off and deleting things or scratching it off on a piece of paper. It's a nice accomplishment. Like when you hit a PB in the gym, like it's exactly the same kind of endorphins that you receive.
Do you think we talk about mental health enough?
Yes and no. I think I'll mention it openly if I'm not time to time, not all the time, because I don't want to come across as preaching about it. I'm not a mental health expert. If somebody approaches me and wants to work with me and they have mental health issues that aren't managed, I won't work with them as an example. I'll refer them out and say, look, go to a doctor or go to this person I'd refer to. I'll mention it because it's important, I think, for people to realize that, again, we go back to those highlight reels, that not everybody is well all the time or capable all the time or is as good as they look on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever it might be.
Well, I'll chuck in my 2 cents then, which I think there's a lot of virtue signaling around it. And I think that a lot of the time that takes away from the seriousness of it. Mm-hmm. And like I said, there are a lot of people who claim to be mental health advocates who actually don't practice what they preach at all. And then I think, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who use it, and people might really dislike me saying this, but I think some people use it as an excuse for low standards.
Oh, yeah.
And I think people will say, oh, I've got, got mental health issues. And actually they're not doing any physical activity. They're eating crap all the time. They're sleeping terribly. They're living their lives on social media. And my admittedly uneducated, non-medical opinion is that if you're living like that and you feel like shit, then you should probably try and fix those things first. And unfortunately, I think we're living in a world where actually a lot of people, again, politically incorrect, play the mental health card. And that takes away from people who actually have genuine mental health issues and makes us then seem or think, oh, that person's just, they're a bit upset and they're saying they're depressed, when that probably isn't the case at all. There are people who are really struggling, but because of these, more virtue signaler types, they all get lumped in one bucket.
There's a big difference between being sad and having clinical depression, as an example. And everybody goes through periods of depressive states and where they feel not motivated, where they can't get out of bed in the morning, where they feel lethargic. That isn't necessarily depression. They just feel a bit depressed. There's a big difference between the two. And I think people tend to, in this day and age, as you said, use it for the wrong reasons, use it to make excuses. And yeah, my mental health does and has got in the way of a lot of things, but I still know that I've not been doing what I should be doing when I'm depressed, but I'm not blaming it. I'm not saying I'm depressed, so I'm not going to go to the gym, or I'm depressed so I'm not going to work. It just kind of happens if as a byproduct of having depression. I'll be the first. I know that when I have been depressed, that I am hard work for, again, other people that care about me. I don't have the viewpoint that, well, these people, because I've got depression, these people should just cater for me and accept what I'm doing and what I'm maybe putting them through and how I'm not supporting them. I'm the first person. I know that I'm a burden, and people will say, oh, you're not a burden when you're depressed to make you feel better. But of course you are. If you're not working, you're not bringing an income into the home, if you're slobbing about and sleeping all day and watching TV till 2 a.m, how can you say you're not being a burden to people?
Probably, like we said before, it perpetuates that cycle of, if you're feeling bad and then you're also thinking, well, I'm letting other people down, it can make you feel worse. So I'd say this is someone who's very fortunately never been in that position. But no, I can absolutely understand it completely. And on a similar-ish theme, we sort of said about, people, again, I don't like the phrase, but like using the mental health card and stuff. And we spoke about this when we chatted before about with ADHD. And you actually, again, have been very open about it, had an ADHD diagnosis very recently. How did that kind of impact things, especially, again, because so many people will say, oh, I've got ADHD, and you're like, no, you're just bad at concentrating.
Yeah, it's the new buzzword, isn't it? It's the new in thing to have ADHD. There's so many clinics now that will just say you have ADHD as well. I always knew there was something, I guess I can use the word wrong, different about me growing up at school. I was never bad. I was never a bad kid. I was always very polite, well-mannered, wanted to treat people well and with respect and so on and so forth. But when it comes to doing work, it's like the old saying, you can drag a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You couldn't make me work in the class. I'd never do any homework, coursework, nothing. It's very difficult for me to concentrate on things. Still am very bad at learning something. I literally need to read something 20 times, watch a video on it, be explained something multiple times as well to actually understand it. And eventually, and I honestly don't know why it took me so long to seek help or to have it diagnosed. It took me up until the age of maybe 31, 32, I'm 36 now, to actually go to the doctors and say, look, I think I've got autism or ADHD. And I was on the waiting list for 18 months. And then eventually I just thought, I'm not going to wait any longer. I'm going to go to an NHS psychiatrist privately and go through the diagnosis process. So I did that. Went through multiple different personality tests to almost rule things out, I guess, but just to make sure that you have everything ruled out, and found out I've got ADHD, which again, I kind of thought I did, but again, I didn't also want to be one of these people that posts up on social media and says, well, I've got ADHD, but I've never been tested for it, but I can't get off my phone or something like that. It's a common thing that you see, commonality. And then I've been on ADHD medication for about 8 months now, which has been different. I just kind of wish I could go back in time sometimes, though, and know back then. It would make me feel a bit less of a failure, so to speak, if that sounds, maybe that's not fair on myself, but it was quite hard seeing everybody kind of succeed and me just feeling like I was the one that was disruptive or couldn't concentrate and so on and so forth. But medication's made a big difference. Concentration, sleeping a lot better. One of the byproducts of ADHD is never feeling rested, no matter how much you've slept. When I first started taking my medication, it was actually when I stayed with you actually for a few months ago, and I was going to bed at 9, 10 at night. I was waking up at 4 a.m, fully awake, which was bizarre. And I'd just lie there in bed and get up and do something productive. That's something I've never ever experienced before. I could sleep for 13 hours, 12 hours, 10 hours and never feel rested, but the medication makes a big difference. So that was quite a shock to the system, so to speak.
And I remember when you were telling me about kind of the characteristics of ADHD and what's involved in it and stuff. And I found it quite interesting because I probably, like most people, assumed that it was just a lack of concentration and bouncing from one thing to the other. But I think, am I right in saying there's sort of other facets of it that a lot of people don't really know about, like other, maybe symptoms is the wrong word, but things that happen with your personality that are ADHD specific that just aren't that well known?
A lot of people think it's a bit of a superpower. So if you have ADHD, you can just hyper-focus on a task and do it perfectly and deliver it within a day of working on it, write a book in a day, etc. You do get moments of hyperfixation. Some people will have it more than others in a beneficial way. You look at a lot of successful people out there and they have ADHD or autism or so on and so forth. One of the biggest factors, and I'm still learning more about other people's experiences with ADHD, and I'm still learning about what is a symptom of ADHD that I do, that isn't just me, if that makes sense. But one of the biggest ones, I think, is just, I think people never really feeling like myself. Almost, it's very easy to mirror other people. I don't really know. This is a weird one. I don't really know who I am, almost, if that's going to sound really strange, but I always feel like I'm interacting with people because that's how they want me to interact with them. I feel almost quite false a lot of the time, which is a really weird thing to say.
Well, no, I get it. And I think that, again, not from a ADHD standpoint, but I know people who define themselves so much by what they do. It's like, I'm an online fitness coach, or even I'm a dad, or I'm a copywriter. I'm a business owner. And I think if you took that away from them, they don't know. And I've certainly fell into that trap maybe 3-4 years ago, where I was like, I don't really know what my identity is outside of online business owner / copywriter. Like, you take those away from me, where's my worth? So I can resonate with that, even I don't think I have ADHD. But yeah, I can definitely resonate with that of thinking, do I just play a part sometimes, if that makes sense?
Oh, definitely, 100%. And I can get on with most people, and I kind of tend to meet them on how they are, almost. But one of the weirdest things that I found out was an ADHD trait is me always feeling like I'm doing something to get something out of somebody. And this is when I was getting diagnosed with ADHD, they go through all sorts of different tests as well as, so they do autism, ADHD, you go through personality disorder tests and so on and so forth. And I actually remember going through the to test if you're a psychopath test and looking at some of the questions. And one of them was something, wasn't exactly this, but do you feel like you do things for yourself or for other people? It was something along those kind of lines. And that kind of made me think, because when I hold a door open for somebody and they say thank you, that makes me feel good. And I kind of think, am I doing that because I like to be polite, or am I doing that because it makes me feel good? If I buy somebody a gift, as an example, and they're dead happy with the gift, am I getting them a gift because they're happy, or did I just do that because it makes me feel good about myself because they're happy? And it's really weird. And I saw a podcast about somebody having ADHD, and he said that was a trait of his as well. It's just feeling very selfish all the time. And as an example, am I friends with, did I go down and stay with you? And I've thought about this specifically, actually. Am I friends with you and other people that are entrepreneurs because I'm trying to get something out of them by being friends with people that are more successful than me? Or do I actually genuinely just like that person? It's really weird. Like, and I still challenge myself with that. Like with my kids, like, am I a good dad because, even as far as this, am I a good dad because I like my kids telling people I'm a good dad, or am I a good dad because I want to be a good dad? It's really weird, and that's probably the thing that really bothers me the most. Feeling like I'm not a nice person. That's really weird.
No, again, I can understand. Is there any process you found that's particularly helpful for kind of coming to terms with that?
Honestly, it's something I still struggle with, and don't always believe when people say, no, you are a nice person, because I just go back to thinking that way. Because yeah, you're telling me that I'm a nice person, and you're saying, well, that's okay. You held the door open for somebody, so you're polite, but they don't understand where I'm coming from when I try to explain that, yeah, it was polite, but I get a buzz from it. The other day, a kid came up to me and said, do you have £1? And I asked him what for, and he said, oh, I want to get some sweets. And I just had a fiver in my pocket, and I gave him a fiver, and he lit up and was dead excited and ran over to his little pal, who was only about 10 or something, and went and bought some sweets. And I walked away and I was like, do I feel good for doing that, or did I get the buzz from doing it? Does that make sense? It's really weird. So that was when I was going through the psychopath questionnaire. I was like, yeah, I'm going to murder somebody next. But it was one of those. It was one of those weird. And I get that's something that I still really, I wouldn't say struggle with. It's just a belief system of mine. It kind of ties back into feeling false as well at the same time. Like, am I not a nice? I don't feel like a nice person.
Again, I can resonate with that in terms of, I have it sometimes where I might be at an event and I've spoken to someone for about 3 or 4 minutes, and the nagging thought in my brain is, this person's probably bored of me and they probably want to go and speak to someone else. So it's not the same thought. And I've said that to people and they're like, no, why would people do that? But it's very difficult when you've got that thought in your head, that you think, well, there's people over there who, are earning 10 times what I'm earning, or, oh, there's extroverts over there. Why does this person, why do they want to speak to me? So even, I think I'm a relatively confident person in a, quietly confident way, but yeah, even I will have moments where I think, what's this person do with me? Why do they want to hang around me? So yeah, I can get that.
That's another very popular symptom of ADHD, is what you've just mentioned there. Actually, just, you also pick up on if somebody says something that you maybe think sounds a bit off, whether that's the way they answer you, or let's just say you message them on Instagram and they don't reply to you. Somebody you maybe spoke to for years. All of a sudden, they don't like me. You see them post on Instagram, they don't like me. Why aren't they talking to me? They obviously like other people more than me. You automatically think that, rather than the other way that you probably should be thinking, which is, well, they're just busy. And I do the same. My friend will message me, and I'll message you sometimes. You maybe take 2 weeks to get back to me. You message me sometimes. I'll take 2 weeks to get back to you. But automatically, it's the thought of, well, I'm not interesting enough. I'm not charismatic enough. I'm not intellectual enough.
We should just clarify, those messages aren't like, I'm dying, send help.
No, yeah. That'll take a week. Yeah, exactly. So it just, it's almost like always thinking the worst rather than thinking the best, which is very pessimistic at the same time. But you also get highs and lows as well. One thing with ADHD is you're never really in the middle. You're either like top of the world or thinking everything's against you and you're never going to be successful. And it's crazy. And that goes for no matter how much more successful I've got with my business. Like, I still feel, look, some days I still feel like I'm making barely £2,000 a month with the mortgage and everything else and the kids. I don't feel any more secure where I am now in comparison, which on paper says different. It's crazy.
And I think, hopefully you don't mind me saying this, but sort of from an external standpoint, I've never seen you be so consistent. Social media is only one metric, but with social media now, like, you would always have phases before where you were super consistent, then you kind of drop off the radar and that kind of things. Whereas now, in terms of things like stories, regular content, all that kind of stuff, it seems like you've just been on fire with it for months on end. Do you think that's a result of having the diagnosis and the, like, medication and stuff that's involved with that?
I think it's a combination of the medication, combination of the diagnosis, a combination of, even though there was times where I maybe wasn't turning up as well for my kids as I should have, but again, my kids are always in the back of my mind in regards to what I should be doing, helping support them and provide for them and so on and so forth. But also the times where I wouldn't be as active on social media was more, a lot of that was down to how I was feeling about myself from a physical standpoint as well. I'd maybe be a few kilos heavier than I am just now. And to a lot of guys, especially the types of guys I train, dads that are 30 to 50 years old, I was still probably, but was in better shape than 99% of them. But because I didn't look or think I looked a certain way, that would just knock my confidence for six, and I wouldn't want to be seen on stories. I wouldn't feel like I was practicing what I preached enough. And then that would have a knock-on effect to my business and also everything else alongside that, whether it was, again, go back to the procrastinating, because I wasn't looking very good. I'd probably overeat at times to kind of try and manage those feelings a bit better. I'd maybe skip the gym to try and get an extra hour in bed. And yeah, that was when the big knock-on effect came from this. But I think sometimes when you gain momentum, it's quite hard to stop sometimes. When you do start to become more successful, you see yourself signing up more clients, you get some more money in the bank. That's probably easier. Well, is easier to keep going. One thing that I suffer with quite a lot is if I don't know something's going to work, why should I bother doing it? Which is a crazy thought process, because you either stay where you are and do nothing about it, and definitely stay where you are, or try to do something and then maybe move forward. But it was a case of, well, if I spend 10 hours this week recording content, writing things, reaching out to potential customers, and I don't get any clients, then I'd feel, it kind of makes you think, what's the point? And again, it's silly to say that, but that was one of the big issues I faced a lot, and I still do when it's coming up with a new piece of content. I'm writing a book at the moment, and it's taken a bit longer than it should have. But again, that kind of thought process of, what if people think it's rubbish? What if nobody buys it? What if somebody, a fitness influencer, reads it and then absolutely shuns it? There's those kind of beliefs. So that's why that's taken a bit longer as well.
The point you make about kind of physical appearance and fitness, I think, is one that probably isn't discussed enough either, or is almost pushed to the side, because in my opinion, the uncomfortable truth is that actually you do feel better when you look better. And I'm not saying everyone has to have shredded six-pack and that kind of thing, because I do think that is probably unsustainable for the most part for most people to maintain that. But yeah, I know that when you look better, you tend to want to do more. Like, all right, not if you're on absolute poverty calories, but if you're a bit leaner, you're a bit more muscular, you're fitter. It's one of those things where when people's businesses aren't going how they want to, one of the best pieces of advice, I think, is get in better shape, start training a bit more, clean up your diet. And I think people like to push that to one side because it's not, not the status quo to say it. But as you said, yeah, when you look better, you're happy to get on camera, got more confidence. So yeah.
100%. And I think it's not just in the fitness business scape where that's important. I see that all the time with the dads that I work with, who will report back to me that they're feeling more confident at work. They're feeling better in the clothes that they're choosing to wear in the office. They hold themselves better. It just has a massive knock-on effect, I think. And also just to how you actually feel as well from a productivity standpoint. When I was my most unhealthy, I was very lethargic. It was very hard to concentrate. It was very hard to focus on pieces of work that I should have been focusing on. And the minute you transform yourself, so to speak, it makes a massive difference. And you kind of don't want to go back to that because you know how good you feel. And some people haven't ever been to the point where they feel good, which is a shame. But you don't really want to go back when you do get to that point.
Definitely. Cool. So we'll wrap up with the final five in a minute. But first of all, if people want to find you, where's the best place they can go to reach out?
At the moment, there's Instagram, and my Instagram is at Reinvent Dadbod. So not Reinvent The Dadbod, Reinvent Dadbod. Website is reinventdadbod.co.uk/home. And YouTube channel is pending. I'll add that later on. I'm not sure what I'm going to go down in regards to the deliverables.
Cool. We can add links to the description and everything as well. So all good on that. Cool. So final 5 questions. First one, if you could gift any business, copywriting, marketing, or mindsets book to someone, what would it be and why?
Well, it's a tough one because I've read quite a few good ones, and I've read, like anybody, a lot of terrible ones as well. I think the one that I actually gifted you years ago, I don't know if you remember it.
Millionaire Fastlane? Yeah.
I think that's just, it's a really wanky name. And he says that it is in the book as well, which is great. But it just kind of really, what I really like about Millionaire Fastlane is you pick it up expecting them to tell you, or him to tell you, that carry out these 5 things and you'll make $1 million in a year, or whatever it might be. But when you read it, it's just, he worked hard and relentlessly, and he got the outcome that he wanted, and he made mistakes and he carried on, and this is what happened. And it's just very motivational, and it just kind of doesn't sugarcoat anything as well, which a lot of business books do. And it's just a very honest read. There's no systems, there's no you must do this, there's no 5 steps to this. It's just a fantastic book.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised by how good it was. Yeah.
I think you read it because you didn't want to offend me by not reading it because I bought you it.
I think I probably saw the title and I was like, it's a bit internet marketer douchey, but actually, I know it was a really solid book. So, definitely I'd recommend that one as well. Question number 2, we're going for coffee. I'm buying. What's your order?
It's just a skinny flat white. I think I've got into the cortados a bit more now, but you can't go wrong with a skinny flat white.
Yep, agreed. Question number 3, you're in charge of the internet for a day and you can delete one social media platform. Which one do you want to get rid of?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'd say TikTok, but I'm not on it. It just annoys me, the people that use it, even though I have nothing to do with it. I'd have to say Facebook. It's got to be Facebook. It's probably a commonality, the Facebook. But just nobody really uses it anymore. Nobody sees any posts. I don't remember the last time I used it. So it's got to be, my business comes through Instagram predominantly, so it's got to be Facebook, I think.
Got it. Question number 4, you're having a dinner party and can invite 3 people, living or dead. Who do you want to invite?
So we'll go for Mike Tyson. I just think he'd add a bit of wow factor and no holds barred, say what he wants. It'd be very interesting. Gordon Ramsay, probably do an element of the same, but it just comes across really well. Didn't used to like him years ago, but I think he'd be a good choice, and he could cook as well. And then finally, Marlon Brando, one of my favourite actors, favourite film, Godfather, part 1 and 2. It'd just be great to pick his brains and ask him what it was like.
Nice, like it. And then final question is, what one piece of advice would you give to someone who wants to get to where you are?
Just do the thing. And I know that's, again, a big cliche, but just see it through. And yeah, you're going to make mistakes. I still make mistakes regularly, but you're not really going to learn from your mistakes, be able to move forward unless you do the thing initially. It's very, very important. Learn from it, tweak it, bin it if you need to, and do something new. I think that puts a lot of people off, is just doing what's needed. And like, I wouldn't look back from where I am now, and I wouldn't be where I am now if I was employed. So,
like it. Great answer. Brilliant. Thank you, mate. Really enjoyed that one. So thanks to you as well for watching at home. As always, I'll put everything down in the description of the video. So all the links to Jonathon's stuff, all the links to the FKS stuff, everything will be there. Any likes, comments, shares, always appreciated. And I shall catch you on the next episode.